Why are so many people dying at one particular hotel in Ibiza? Ibiza Rocks in San Antonio. It's basically a hotel, but it's also like a nightclub where people can watch the party from their balcony, or they can go downstairs and join in on the dance floor. The hotel rooms overlook the party, meaning that guests are never far away from the sesh. However, at least seven tourists have died at this particular hotel, including 2 Scottish tourists that both fell from the balcony within weeks of each other recently. Why is this happening? Last month, on July the 7th, a 26-year-old from Aberdeen tragically lost his life after he fell from the 6th floor balcony at Ibiza Rocks. His friends told the British press that within minutes of the tragic incident, the staff were jet washing all the blood away and the hotel was back to normal operation 90 minutes later, even posting on social media to promote the next pool party. And then around a week later, a 25-year-old British tourist died after plunging from the top of a car park of a supermarket 11 minutes walk away from Ibiza Rocks, also in San Antonio. It was reported in the press that a British tourist died in hospital after plunging from a supermarket car park. The 25-year-old has not been named yet. Apparently, he suffered from catastrophic injuries, including a fractured skull, fractured vertebrae, chest trauma, and a collapsed lung, and he later died in hospital from his injuries. It happened again on July the 21st. Gary Kelly, a 19-year-old from Dundee, died after falling off the 3rd floor balcony. This time, Ibiza Rocks actually published a statement about the incident on their Instagram. They said, "Given the seriousness of the situation and out of respect for those involved, we believe it is right to pause our advertised events program at this time." They also said that they were shocked and devastated, but could they really be that shocked? Because 7 people have died at this hotel, at least 7 people. So is it really shocking that there was another death? 5 days later, they reopened and it was back to business as usual. On the 29th of July this year, that was 3 days after Ibiza Rocks reopened, a British tourist in San Antonio at a different hotel broke his back jumping into a pool. According to the Spanish news, he suffered a spinal cord injury, a fracture to the vertebra, head trauma, and it's feared that he will be paralysed and never fully recover. In August last year, Emma Ramsey, a 19-year-old, was at a nearby hotel. She fell from the 6th floor balcony and died. Earlier this year, on the 30th of April, a 33-year-old woman died at Ibiza Rocks. She was said to have suffered a cardiac arrest in her room. The site that is now Ibiza Rocks started as an apartment hotel in 1998. It had 368 units and a 3-star rating. It was called Club Paradiso Mediterraneo. The hotel was bought in 2008 by the Ibiza Rocks organisation led by British couple Andy McKay and Dawn Hiddle. They were 2 of the 4 founders of the legendary Manumission Night, which was huge at Coup, later renamed Privilege, on the island in the 90s and early 2000s. They changed the vibe of the original apartment hotel complex, renaming it Ibiza Rocks and turning it into a hotel meets nightclub with bands and DJs performing on the main stage in the courtyard with balconies overlooking the action. 4 years later, in 2011, they bought the famous Pikes Hotel from legendary Australian character Tony Pike. Let's go on a little Pikes side quest for a moment because it is an interesting story. Built on the former site of a rural farmhouse, the hotel became famous for being the epicenter of debauchery in the 80s and 90s. In 1983, it was the location of Wham's Club Tropicana video, and Tony Pike had a cameo in it as the cocktail-shaking, mustachioed bartender. That made him pretty famous. The video created so much hype, in fact, that the hotel became a hangout for celebrities, including, in the 80s and 90s, George Michael, Freddie Mercury, Grace Jones, Liam Gallagher, Boy George, Kate Moss, and Princess Margaret. According to various sources, the guests in the old days were offered cocaine on the cornflakes in the morning.
People wouldn't say, do you want a drink? They say, do you want a line? And along this fucking bar, it'd be all lines of cocaine.
In 1987, Freddie Mercury's 41st birthday party was thrown there. There's a mural at the hotel visible to guests when they leave that reads, "You can check in, but you can never check out." After Ibiza Rocks took over Pikes, they allowed Tony to live on the site for life. That was part of the deal of the purchase. In recent years, Andy took over the running of the hotel completely after he split from Dawn. Irvin Welsh is currently writing a screenplay about Tony's life, the life of a man who claims to have slept with 3,000 people. But why are so many people dying? Well, I asked people that are partying on the island over the last couple of seasons, and I also asked a long-standing promoter, and then I took these answers to the secret DJ, who is an author and journalist who's been living on the island covering the electronic music scene and DJing at the various venues for the past 30 years. I'd consider him an extremely credible source on the local scene in Ibiza. I mean, he's written 2 books on it, but you can check it out. His actual identity is always kept a secret, and if you want to see the sort of like inside scoop of the industry, you really should check out his books. I'll put them in the description. The things that came up time and time again included the facts of the culture at this particular hotel, where you get on the sesh on the balcony looking at the main stage. It's a 3-star hotel, you know, it's a cheap hotel. It's aimed mainly at British tourists. If you can't afford the extortionate drink prices in Ibiza, you know, one option if you're staying at Ibiza Rocks is you go and get booze from the local Aldi and you have the party in your room, and the closest place to the main stage is of course the balcony. Another problem that 4 people brought up as well is people jumping from one balcony to another because they want to get to their friend's apartment, but they can't be bothered walking round. Apparently that is very, very prevalent. So you can see that some of the architecture of the hotel might be an issue here, which is causing people to fall off. So I asked a promoter, it's a really big promoter actually, who preferred to remain unnamed, but I asked him, you know, why are people falling off the balconies in Ibiza? He said, I mean, it's probably a mixture of reasons, but there's no getting away from the fact that young kids have been going away and falling off balconies after taking lots of drugs and drinking in Ibiza and many other party resorts like Magaluf, Ayia Napa, wherever, since the 90s. It's been in the news a lot lately, but this was happening there in 2001. Some people have been saying they should make the balcony bars higher and put nets underneath. There's also some strong drugs out there at the moment, like that pink shit. And what is that pink shit that he is talking about? Well, it's called Tuci. It's not actually a new drug, rather a sort of concoction of existing drugs. It's just a shit mix of different drugs. The police and tabloid journalists call it pink cocaine. Statistically, it's unlikely to contain any cocaine, and it rarely contains 2CB, the psychedelic, even though it sounds quite similar. It's most likely to contain caffeine, MDMA, and ket. The only consistent thing that's in Tuci every single time is the pink food dye. Everything else could change. Here's some of the testing from the UK, from Wednors, and from Canada, and you can see that almost all the samples contained MDMA and ket. There were some unknown substances in there. Cocaine was only found in 8% of the samples, and 2CB wasn't found in any of the samples there. It's starting to get more popular in America now, but it's already fairly popular across Europe, especially Spain, especially Ibiza. Here's some of the samples that were tested by Tic Tac Communications, who test drugs on behalf of the NHS in England and also the law enforcement agencies. All samples contained MDMA, ketamine, and caffeine. Occasionally they detected 2CB in these samples, occasionally detected coke. They said that those two are very uncommon. And if you have a look at some of the testing in America of 2C, here's what they found there. You can see ketamine and MDMA and caffeine, again, the most popular ones. Also a precursor to ket, again, 2CB, in a smaller amount of the samples. They also had a bit of meth in there as well. So the main thing about Tuci is that it isn't particular drugs, so it's like drugs that have different types of effects lumped together. You don't know what's in it. It could have a totally different effect from one time taking it to another. It's likely to vary from batch to batch, from manufacturer to manufacturer. You know, you might get more MDMA in one, you might feel more euphoric and stimulated one time, but you might get more ket in one and you might feel suddenly disassociated or floaty. And it's this unpredictability that quite a few people that I spoke to for this piece said that they thought this might be linked to people falling off these balconies. But it's not a new phenomenon. People fall off balconies, tourists, so much in Spain that the Spanish even have a word for it. That is balconing. That is the name given in Spain to the act of either jumping into a swimming pool from a balcony or falling whilst climbing from one balcony to another. In 2010, there were 6 deaths and 11 injuries in falls from balconies in Spain. Most of these incidents involved young British and German tourists who had blood alcohol content that was pretty high. In that year, hotels were reported to have raised the height of railings from 1.05 metres, that's 3.4 foot, to 1.2 metres to reduce balcony incidents. A 23-year-old guy called Jack in 2019 was on the first night of a stag do in Magaluf when he fell 2 stories from the hotel balcony. He actually told the BBC how this happened.
Gone abroad to Magaluf for my mate's stag do in June. There's 21 of us going. I walked back to the hotel with my mate Mike. He then put me in my room. From what I can remember is I then went outside for a cigarette. Whilst having a cigarette, I started throwing up. While throwing up, I jaunted forward. As I jaunted forward, I toppled off the 2nd story balcony.
In 2022, a Spanish trauma surgeon called Dr. Segor, after treating a lot of British tourists who had fallen from balconies in Spain, decided to start a campaign. He teamed up with the British Embassy in order to sort of put out a health message to British tourists. In the campaign, he said that of those who survive the first impact, because 1 out of every 2 or 3 people who fall from the balcony will die on the spot, he said of the people who do survive, between 60 and 70% suffer head injuries or severe spinal cord injuries that will prevent them from walking for the rest of their lives. So I asked the secret DJ if this is the case. Has this been going on since the 90s? Is it possible that we're just hearing about it more now because of social media? And he said that it has been a thing, but he believes that there's been a steady increase, but it's been kept out of the press largely by the very expensive and very high level PR activity that these clubs have. So he reckons that the focus with this PR activity has been to shift the blame from the actual hotel, who haven't had basic safety measures around their balconies, and shift that blame to the individuals who died, basically, so that it's not our fault, they're stupid, that's why they died, kind of thing. One person that I spoke to had been partying at Ibiza Rocks, and she said that from what she witnessed, she believes that it is people jumping from one balcony to another to go to their friend's apartment whilst under the influence of vast amounts of alcohol, she believes. She also mentioned Tuci, but she believes from what she saw that it's alcohol that's driving these deaths. I put this idea to the secret DJ and he said, quote, "I think again this is a form of mitigation, of playing it down and managing the narrative. When you want to control what people think and ignore the rational investigation, you polarize things and simplify it. This feels like a simplification. Saying the type of drugs are responsible is like saying a make of a car is the reason for car accidents. Granted, there is an argument that Teslas burst into flames spontaneously and supercars in the hands of bad drivers can lead to lunacy, but the boring truth is that 99% of road accidents are just that, accidents within a system that is inherently dangerous already. Young people are not idiots by any means, but they are universally inexperienced. Any group of inexperienced people taking boatloads of drugs and booze many away from home for the first time without any supervision, all thrown at totally unscrupulous rich businessmen who care nothing for safety, is a dangerous situation, full stop. The rest is just tragedy. It's sadly inevitable that there are casualties in a chaotic scenario like this. Add to the fact that above the rich hotel owners is another tier of lobbyists and government who want no other narrative to exist other than come here, do what you like and spend all your money. This leads to a frankly reckless scenario. Even to discuss it makes you look like a massive pooper. It's not hard to take measures and let everyone have a good time and make pots of cash. It just takes some measures that are unacceptable to capitalists. And the main issue isn't just that it will cost you money and they don't care to spend. Most of all, it starts with culpability and responsibility and admitting that there is a problem, something that they will likely never do, not without a large amount of pressure. It's far easier to mitigate and shoot the messenger. Content creation was another thing that came up again and again. It was a common theme when I spoke to people that had been partying recently in Ibiza. One person who was there earlier this season said, I think people see the balcony dancing more and more on social media. So think it's a thing, or at least being on your balcony and being seen by everyone is more of a thing now. We always kept whatever we were doing in the room, maybe briefly be on the balcony smoking, but not actually partying there. There's a definite shift of that side of things. Again, social media plays a big part in that. And when you look at the reviews for Ibiza Rocks online, you can see that the balcony does play a big part in the attraction of this hotel, partying on the balcony. We can see here from these reviews that a lot of people mention getting cheap booze and going on the balcony as basically the reason why they go to the hotel. So really, should we basically be putting in some sort of netting or something that's going to stop people falling? Surely it doesn't cost that much money to make this a situation where people can't fall from it. Think about the balconies on a prison landing, for instance. They do have big nets, so if anyone jumps off there, they're just going to be caught in the net. I spoke to a guy in his 20s who'd been to Ibiza Rocks this season and last season, and here's what he had to say. It's ridiculous. I've seen my mates jump over the balcony to the next door's balcony while smashed. I've always had it out with them afterwards, highlighting how dangerous it is. They couldn't be asked walking out of the door, down the corridor and into the next room's door. He also said that the sesh does get pretty heavy there on the balconies. In a statement recently, the hotel did say that the safety and well-being of our guests has and always will remain our highest priority. I asked the secret DJ to what extent does he agree or disagree with that statement. Well, clearly it's not, he said. That's pure lawyer speak, isn't it? The same owner has a legal capacity at Pikes for 52 people and sold 2,500 tickets for Halloween last year. That says everything. The priority is packing them in like sardines and making as much money as possible, and this has been the way of him since the very same owner did the same at Manumission many years ago. A long and very transparent history of ignoring safety in favour of cash. If safety and well-being is a priority, then why are so many people losing their lives there? Far more than anywhere else. Is it haunted? Is it a Balearic Bermuda Triangle? Simple common sense and examination of the facts suggests something is very wrong there. Are we to believe that the same rich man is the unluckiest venue owner in the world, or just one who cares more about cash than people? I'm confident that people are smart enough to work that one